something I cannot eat. And from there happened a transformation into, okay, oh, I can cook food. I can really, first of all, produce fire, which itself took a long time. And from there, I could cook. I could taste something that I've never tasted before. So we have always been exploring. Right from the insight of knowing that I can burn firewood and cook food, to today really understanding deep about machine learning, about big data. Has the human mind changed? The basic sense to explore, to know, has it changed? The context has changed. The nature has changed, but fundamentally, it is the same. We have always been exploring. We've always been curious. We've always been curious. If there is a VR glass lying there, well, let me go and try it on. They're talking about AI. They're talking about Hyperloop. They're talking about being able to fly from LA to Delhi in 29 minutes. All these things we're curious. Oh, one day I might be able to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But our mind is structured in that way, and our mind takes big resource in the imagination, in the understanding of how future is going to look. One of the big reasons why there is so much talk about AI is it has such context to our future. It has been placed long back. I don't know if you have seen these cartoon series like Jetsons and all, where years ago they did show about, in a very pictorial manner, what the future is going to look like. Oh, are the bots going to take over? Are the AI going to come and vanquish us? And what is our future at stake, or is it secured? If you really observe, it is no different from my personal future. Me thinking, what's going to happen to my finance in 10 years? Me thinking, will my son get married? My daughter get married? Me thinking how much of fixed deposit I'll be having in my bank when I leave my company? Me thinking what will happen to my city because of all the pollution? The apprehension, the fear, the anxiety, the lookout, fundamentally is no different from even thinking all those talks we've been having from the Musks and the Zuckerbergs in terms of whether it's going to be a great future or it's going to be a dim future. If a Stephen Hawking or if a Elon Musk are concerned about what's going to happen to the future with the AI taking over, that fear fundamentally is no different from the fear of what's going to happen to my bank balance. Is it different? Fundamentally, fear is the same. Fear is all about what will happen to me, what will happen to me, what will happen to me. Doesn't matter if it's AI, or doesn't matter if my Ola gets stuck and I don't get in time for my meeting. What will happen to me? What will happen to my image? So at a physical level, at a psychological level, it's all about me, 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 me. Me and mine. What will happen to me? What will happen to my things? I like this. I want to build it. I want to give intelligence to AI. I want to see how nice it is, how intuitive it is, how curious it is. But oh my God, what if it becomes too powerful? If it becomes too powerful, what will happen to me and mine? This happens in relationship. मैंने इसको बहुत जगह दे दिया. Sorry, I brought in Hindi, I don't know from where. I have given a lot of room to this boy in my house, this particular gentleman in the company. What if tomorrow, because of all the knowledge I gave to this subordinate, he will start bossing me? Is that any different from AI taking over? Yes? No. We might have a very sophisticated outlook. Oh, this is machine. We are just putting data. But we're not talking about AI. We're talking about us. We're talking about our mind. And it's the same mind we are feeding into it. So it's very important to look into our own mind even before we look into what are we feeding. What kind of a world are we looking at? What kind of a future are we looking at? So there's absolutely no difference between me being scared that my subordinate who I trained will take over being any different from an AI that will take over. It's my fear. It's my anxiety. That quality will be there regardless if you bring in AI or don't bring in AI. And people need to see that. People need to realize that. If it is not AI, it would have been aliens. If it is not aliens, it would have been terrorists. If it's not terrorists, it would have been HIV. If it's not HIV, it would have been some global apocalypse. All kinds of Armageddons and movies, and you see all these kind of Day After Tomorrow and 2012 and whatnot. End of the world. End of the world, and we as humans have been fascinated at the larger level about end of the world. So what about me, what about me, what about me? And the last feeling is, if I was created, I don't know who created me. Some say God, some say energy, some say divine, some say consciousness, whatever it is, we don't know. It's cool if I also get to create something. So I almost feel God-like to create something that does things like me, that walks like me, that sits like me, that talks like me, that thinks like me, and I did it. And people like it. Humans like it. Humans like to create something that is my thought, my creation, which is manifested out there, and it can do all these things. You see, it can do all these things, and you see, I created it. Make sense? So all these things are running at a deeper level. If we understand all this, let's say you are heading a company. Let's say tomorrow you are cracking a code. Let's say you are gathering data tomorrow. Let's say you are handling CRM. Let's say it's about media. Let's say any industry you are from. At the end of the day, we are all trying to gain business. We are all trying to reach out to a customer. We are all trying to get more traction. No matter whatever you're doing, it's all relationships, 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 relationships. And if you are thinking of a future tomorrow where data is going to help you take your company to a new level, my effort here is for you to have a whole different fundamental perspective so that you will even know why are you doing what you're doing. I see, so what we do normally is one of the other things we do is we spend time with heads of companies really trying to understand where they are heading. What is the future that they're looking for? What is the direction they're going to be taking? And we have talks about the CEO of the company really trying to understand what the masses are thinking about, what their minds are going through, what next product can I bring in that is going to really entice them all the more? How can I be the most liked company? How can I be the most relevant company? So most of peak, the data we are trying to get out of is trying to understand the customer's mind, trying to understand the user's mind so that I can be so deeply there and bring the right thing, and thus my company could grow. And actually getting to know what the emotions are, you would be able to see it much, much better. So it's interesting, I was spending time with someone who takes care of the key position in New York with IBM. And he was really trying to understand how exactly the future would look like, how exactly this whole customer relation would develop, what actually is going to happen. Yes, we are making billions of dollars. Yes, we have so many companies around the world. We have millions of customers. It's all happening, but where are we heading? Where are we heading? Where are we heading? And one of the insights we got together in that talk, the gentleman said, I think the first thing I need to do is really look into myself. Because if I really look into myself, I'll really know what those millions are looking for. I never really got in touch with myself. I never really got in touch with my own thinking at a fundamental level. And interesting enough, when I saw what makes me do what I do, what makes me feel what I feel, I think I don't need a big time to know what the others are feeling, what those millions are feeling. It's not a question of different million minds. Deep down, the needs are the same. Deep down, it is all about the same aspect that is running. And that's what this mind functions as. So I'm going to quickly take you, it's something that might help you at a personal level. What is this mind all about? We need to know this because that's what we are feeding. We need to know this because that's what we are structuring. We need to know this because that's what we are feeding in every single point of our time. some of the experts in the Valley say, which I myself have heard personally about this whole debate, is the AI biased or it's not biased? Well, at a fundamental level, yes, it's a machine. Only humans are biased. But the data that is going in, it's all coming from a certain pattern that even we ourselves are not aware of. And that's what we need to see at some point of time. So 4 things happen as far as mind is concerned. The first thing mind does is perceptions. We have all kinds of perceptions we are gathering in all the time. We are here, we are in Hyderabad, we are eating this food, about the summit, about the company, about my wife, about my husband, about my boss, about customers, about technology, about society, about politics, about every possible thing. So we are constantly perceiving. So the typical meaning of a perception is, I see this, and a perception goes into my mind. This is a JBL speaker, and it is placed on a stage, and this is what it is. It is a speaker. So in that way, the brain is constantly taking in tons and tons of perceptions. Some of these perceptions fly by. Some of these perceptions stay. Some of these perceptions matter a lot to us. Some of these perceptions don't matter a lot to us. The perceptions that matter a lot to us, they become emotions. What I mean by they meaning a lot to us, because of that perception, your identity is a variable, or your identity is dependent on that perception. A perception that 2 people are talking about something, you're overhearing them talking about cricket. It might stay in you. You might think about it. But those 2 people are talking about cricket, and somewhere in between, you hear your name. My goodness, why are they talking about me? Where did I come in the picture? The moment I come into the context, it's no longer just a passing by perception. It becomes an emotion. It immediately becomes an emotion because it's about me. It's about me, it's about me, it's about me. So I want to find out what is it. And I'm sure all of you are experiencing it all the time. We have tons of emotions from, you see all over there. And all of this is felt in a relationship. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie called I, Robot with Will Smith. And there is a scene where there is a moment where one of the robots clearly said that it has emotions. It clearly, they try to find out who killed the main professor there, and says that it has fear, it has anger. So one of the big debates again people have is, can a robot have emotions? But even before we go there, it's even important to understand what happens in us. So a perception is passing by. It's not a question of perception and emotion per se. The catalyst for a perception to transform into an emotion is the sense of me. It's me and mine is what determines to what extent that perception will become an emotion. Some emotions stay, some emotions go away. Some emotions trouble you for a few hours, some emotions trouble you for a few days, some emotions trouble you for a long, long time. In the same way, some emotions you cherish for a few hours, some emotions you cherish for a few years, and some emotions you cherish for a lifetime. The emotions that you deeply, deeply feel engraved with, they become mental formations. So they actually become a mental formation. I'm sure when you're 3 years old, 4 years old, there would have been an incident. First day you went to school, or first time you learned how to bicycle, or first time your dad took out somewhere for a fun trip on a giant wheel, I don't know. And that particular memory defined your life. It started as a perception. It became an emotion. And not just that, it defined your identity. It defined your life. It defined your memory. So it became a pure mental formation, which, even if today you think of it, you feel like you're back there. You feel like you're that 3-year-old, that 5-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 8-year-old. When I was 5 years old, with my friends, we were just playing, and one day someone just says, oh, can you sing a song? Can you sing a Hindi song? I happen to sing, and I badly perform, and they make fun of me. And they say, what kind of a voice is this? It stayed in me. When I was 25, I used to think of it, it stayed in me. A mental formation doesn't need the event to be live. The event is bygone. You don't need the event to occur. The event is still continuing in your mind. You're still alive with it. So there are tons of mental formations. There are tons and tons of mental formations. We're going to see, we have mental formations. They talk about logic circuits in AI. So where are these logic circuits going to lead? All kinds of logics matching with each other. That logic, this logic, all the data that's been fed in. And when that inflection point comes, what actually is going to happen? Would we also start seeing these kind of stuff in AI? Would we see strong emotions? Would we see mental formations that'll stick in them and the AI will come and tell you, oh, you did this to me now 25 years ago, I remember that. That'll be scary. So would it head in that direction? And the last part that really defines our cornerstone, we saw perceptions, we saw emotions, we saw mental formations. And the last aspect which really puts this all together is consciousness. I'm not talking about it from a spiritual sense. I'm talking about it in a very literal,